Monday morning to you all. The street, this is what I'm talking, this is what I've been thinking about all weekend. The street continues to ignore Optimus and the entire robotics picture. But I'm pretty sure this craziness cannot last much longer. With multiple other companies, including Google, showing humanoid robots doing real work and complex task capabilities, some investors are going to want to get some of their money in that potential world-changing sector. There is much shocking about the lack of coverage. Number one, the monumental potential change on all of industry and all of life should be a story that journalists would love to play with and explore. There are so many companies and experts and labs to interview. It's just amazing. Number two, there are now multiple videos with some pretty shocking examples of advanced robotics. You'd think journalists would want to do some investigation as to whether there's any chicanery in those videos, because if they're real, oh my gosh. Number three, Elon Musk has a history of accomplishing the magical. The fact that Tesla is showing the most advanced hardware and some pretty slick capabilities is a story into itself that just isn't being covered at all. Number four, the potential win on the financial side for companies that enter that market with useful products dwarfs anything that any of us have ever seen in our lifetimes, and probably well beyond our lifetimes. Giving Lucid a $100 billion valuation and millions of lines of print coverage a couple of years ago, but not giving Optimus or any of these robots any coverage at all is just nuts. The world this is according to CNBC this morning. The world economy is moving into a different super cycle. Peter Oppenheimer, head of macro research in Europe at Goldman Sachs, told Squawk Box Europe. He mentions artificial intelligence and decarbonization as the two big movers. Sure, but where is any discussion of electrification and robotics? Wow. This is such a miss. Well, that day is coming. Brett Adcock said that ChatGPT moment is coming. I'm sure that robots are here. Let me rephrase that. I am absolutely positive that the robots are here moment is 10 times as important, and that moment is already here. The press just hasn't realized it yet. Well, robots will save companies on wages. That's easy to figure out. And you can do spreadsheets, and many are doing those spreadsheets in the non-regular traditional media. But there are massive savings beyond just those dollars. And I did a video yesterday morning that talks about at least 12 other places where the savings pile up, and it was barely watched. I'm going to keep recommending this video until it gets to 10,000 views or 50,000 views, which it deserves. And I'll give you the card again on this later in this episode. Later today, you'll also have Brian White at the noon hour, and then Larry Goldberg talking about the good news at the end of the day later this afternoon. And then it'd be great if you'd hit like and subscribe and notify, and then buy some of these, goofy little, I mean, they're still selling like crazy. I'm really shocked that the sales here in January. I thought it was only going to be Christmas, but no, every single day there are orders coming in and people calling, especially the people that have already seen it. The reorders are amazing. Selling on Amazon almost every single day. Very, very amazing. So you know the deal. I'll talk about it way more at the end, all right? And then join Patreon, please, and I'll talk about that a little more at the end as well. All right, speaking of press coverage, when will the press cover the Cybertruck? It's just fascinating. I have a lot of journalistic instincts. I've written hundreds, maybe thousands of articles for magazines and newspapers over my career. So I kind of have a thing in the journalism world. Dozens of amazing reviews have been done on YouTube in the new journalism. Thousands and thousands of millions of words probably now on X, and yet nothing from the mainstream media. Bupkis is a word that I grew up with. Bupkis from the mainstream media. I can't get it. But the press does continue. Hello, it's early. The press does continue to cover Elon bad. There are headlines everywhere this morning about the drug use. And so far, the stock seems to be a little bit off of where it should be this morning for no other reason than those headlines. I covered the response to the drug use claims by the Wall Street Journal and hundreds of others today. I covered that yesterday. So go, if you want to look at last night's video, I talk about what nonsense this is. I mean, it's just flat out nonsensical. However, Elon did manage to add a commentary that he would use drugs if they helped his productivity. As usual, his transparent honesty is wonderful, but I'm not sure it's going to help this story in the short term anyway. Anyway, last month, Tesla began rolling out the FSD beta version 12.1 to the Wave One, a group that makes up over 15,000 employee vehicles. CEO Elon Musk went on to say that Tesla is currently performing extra testing on V12 before the software sees a wider release to the public. In a recent look at where FSD beta V12 is currently at, ahead of this release, Tesla Scope shared a detailed breakdown of events leading up to this point on X over the weekend, adding that they're hopeful that the software will be released sometime in late January. Telescope also points to recent feedback on the FSD beta version 12 from employees in that Wave 1 group, with most answering that the software did include some really substantial improvements. 72% said FSD beta version 12.1 includes improvements in human-like behavior and general stability. 20% said there was no change that they noticed to those two things, and 8% said that those factors had actually gotten worse. Tesla FSD beta 12 improvements about roundabouts. The folks that were asked said that 40% said FSD improved roundabout encounters, 50% said there was no change, 10% said factors had worsened. Tesla, with regard to improvements in lane keeping, 37% said improvements, 60% said no change at all, 3% said worsen. Teslarati, and I'm sorry, that was the end of that story. Teslarati, which is generally pretty careful in their journalism, says this about potential introduction of the Model 3 Plus in the US. What is immediately noticeable from the vehicles that have been spotted in the United States, or usually around the Fremont factory, is the fact that they are already very finely made. This suggests that if the vehicles are indeed manufactured in the Fremont factory, the facility is already producing upgraded Model 3 units that are ready for customer deliveries. If this were indeed the case, it would not be surprising if customer deliveries of the Model 3 Highland in the United States start earlier than expected, perhaps as early as Q1 2024. Well, there's been some other observations other people have made that it's going to, be really early, like maybe February. Anyway, and wokeness, that's his name. That's his handle on X, says this morning. BlackRock will be laying off 600 employees, mostly from the ESG division. ESG global investments collapsed by $5 trillion in just 2 years, according to End Wokeness. ESG is the system used by BlackRock and Vanguard to blackmail companies into adopting woke practices. Couldn't happen to a nicer concept. I'd love to see ESG and DEI, DIE. Where are markets now? Let's take a look. We'll start with Tesla, which has been bouncing around break even this morning. It is trending upward, is down 0.23%. The Dow Jones is down 0.44%. NASDAQ is up 0.71%. S&P is up 0.26%. The headline this morning on Boeing, and we all know about the window blowing out on Boeing. That was not a good thing. People are saying the Dow is down this much because of Boeing. I don't think so. I think this is a reversal of last week's pattern. People that made a lot of money on Dow stocks last week are taking a little off. People who lost a lot of money let's just say there's opportunities in the NASDAQ because it went down last week. So that's what I think, but I could be completely wrong. We have all of the Magnificent Seven up. I mean, NVIDIA is up 3.75%, Amazon up 1.35%. Let's take a look at some of these in dollars. We have got the Dow down 149 points, NASDAQ up 100, S&P up 12, and Tesla down 51 cents. It has been trying to get back to break even this morning. It looks like it's kind of headed that way right now. And then we have all the Cathie Wood stocks are mixed as they could possibly be. Just about half and half is my visual impression. All right, let's now go in and take a look at bonds as we always start with. We've got the 10-year is now down 2.9, almost, let's call it 3 basis points. That's a good thing. All of the long bonds, including even the 1-year, are in that ballpark, down around 3 basis points. While all of the short terms are up this morning, but not much. They're pretty close to break even this morning, but very, very split chart right there. So 10 years are also now seeing some bottom fishers, some bargain hunters are looking at last week's action and going, too fast, too far, too far, too fast. And with the CPI coming out this week and the PPI coming out this week, maybe trying to get ahead of that print, which is looking like a pretty solid print later this week. By the way, there is about 10% shift of people in their opinions about when the Fed is going to make their first change or make some of their changes later this year. But there's still a majority believing that March is when this is the first 25 basis points will come off. Okay, let's take a look at the rest. The last time I checked, oil was down big time. Oil is down $3.64 or 4.9, well, let's call it 5% this morning. Saudi price cuts. Saudi price cuts. There you go. So Brent is also down 4.33%. Natural gas is down 4.6%. So what's going on? This is a big story. We're going to have to follow this all day today and see where this is going. Those are major, major cuts based on Saudi hitting, for some reason, they're cutting prices, not moving enough oil, I suppose. Gold is down $20. Still, still over 2030. So that's down from the 2070, 2080, where it's been recently. Copper's down a tad, silver's down a tad. We've got the dollar kind of flat this morning. And we've got Bitcoin up 1.65%, still trading right around that 45,000 level as they're waiting for this potential new issue, I'm always forgetting that 3-letter word. Traded, I'm not going to get it. All right. Let's go back real quick and take a look at whether Tesla's been able to get in the green. Tesla is in the green now substantially. It is shooting up as we speak. It is now up 78 cents and headed higher. And all of the Magnificent Seven seem to be, it's pretty much an upward drifting market in terms of the NASDAQ and the Magnificent Seven. All right. So I am going to say it again now. I did a video yesterday. This is important stuff. I'm sure I've used every emphasis word I could think of this morning to talk about what's going to happen with robots. Robots is coming fast. It is really coming fast. I don't know how much of your portfolio you've got invested in Tesla, but not investment advice, but this is going to be massive. And I think it's going to be soon in terms of its impact on stocks like Tesla that are involved in the robotics picture, the humanoid robotics picture. What I was doing yesterday morning in that video was talking about stuff that nobody else is talking about. Not before, not now, not, maybe people will look at it and will make their own list and put it up on X or do their own videos about it. But we're not talking about just wages here. There's a list of 12 things that are way beyond wages. I ran a company, well, I've run a lot of companies, but I ran a manufacturing company for 29 years. And I can tell you that as an owner, a lot of my, at that time, $100 value, $100 an hour valuation was in dealing with employee squabbles between one another, was dealing with creating incentives to get people to get the worst guy on the line to come up to the quality and the productivity of the best person on the line. There's a lot of stuff besides just how much you pay people that goes into the value of a robot that's going to do the job all day long, exactly the same at a high clip. So anyway, I highly recommend, here's the card right here. You should go back and look at that video. It should really get 100,000 views. At least, of course, it won't, but it should. All right. Anyway, let me go on. Let's see, we've got, again, Brian White coming up later today. So you want to hit notify for that. You can only do notify if you're already subscribed. So please subscribe if you haven't already. We're heading towards 20,000. We passed the 19,000. We're headed towards 20,000 subscribers. That's a pretty exciting mark that's coming up here in the next few weeks. We'll hit 20,000. That's fun. You can contribute to that if you haven't already. Hit subscribe, and then of course hit like. We've got Brian White coming up at around the noon hour, Larry Goldberg helping me in the evening, and these will be, I'm sure, outstanding opportunities for this channel. And then $25 gets you into this beautiful magnet. Okay, look at the size of that magnet. Have you seen how big that magnet is? So when you put this on your refrigerator, you can put stuff under it and it's going to stick. It ain't going anywhere. This thing weighs, okay, weighs about a half a pound. When I ship these, I know how much they weigh. They weigh about a half a pound, just a little under half a pound. They're gorgeous. They look very cool. And then you got the camo version as well. And of course, when you order them, please say camo or regular, all right? And they're $25 for one, $45 for two, $65 for three, $100 million if you want to buy four. No, I'm sorry, $90 and then $110 for five. And if you want to buy 10, and a lot of people have, if you want to buy 10, it gets down to $21 each, 210 bucks. If you're outside the United States zip code, please add $20. And if you're over like in China or in Australia, New Zealand, over in all that area over there, please add $30 for the freight. And I think that's pretty much all I want to tell you right now. And anyway, comment. I need more comments. I love your comments. It's so much fun to always get lots and lots of comments. Let's look back. You always like to do this at the very end and see where Tesla is now. See, $142. I mean, it's straight like this. So I think maybe, are people beginning to ignore the mainstream media? Do you think there's a point at which people will go, these guys are a bunch of buffoons and fools, and not paying attention to them anymore and get all their news on X or on YouTube? I think that day could be coming because these guys are getting it wrong a lot. Anyway, that's it. It has been great talking to you.